Seasonal Flu and COVID-19 Webinar 2022-2023. That was a bit of a mouthful. So my name's Brian Forbes. I'm the Service Manager for Public Health. I'm also joined today, now hopefully I get your titles right, Jane Beresford, Public Health Programme Manager. Shauna McLeod, who's the Senior Business Analyst Project Lead. And Kirsty Howie, our Team Lead for the Immunisation Programme. Okay, can you move on to the next slide, please, Shauna? Is it Shauna that's manning the slides?
Yeah.
Yep, can we move on to the next one? Moving.
Sorry, hang on, I'm trying to move it to the next slide, but I think it's frozen. Just give me a second.
No worries.
So while Shauna's doing that, can I just welcome everyone and just ask that everyone make sure that you've got your microphones on silent and also that your phones are on silent so that we don't get any interruptions. You might find that the quality of the webinar is better with your cameras off, but I'll leave that up to individuals to decide. And we'll move on with the webinar. Any questions that people have, we'll just ask you to put them in the chat. And Daisy, our administrator, is kindly going to collate those for us, and we'll do our best to respond to everything at the end of the session. So, and if there's something that is urgent and you want to ask, then please just use the hands up sign. So what we're going to do today is just cover the flu and COVID delivery for 22-23, the eligibility criteria, and we'll cover aspects of influenza, COVID-19 and guidance, training and the cold chain vaccine process. So moving on from that, I just thought I'd give a little bit of background on the uptake figures from last year. So just hopefully you can see that graph there. So there was a number of new groups added to the programme last year, which included those aged over 50, those in prison, and teachers and nursery facing pupil staff were new. So you can see from that some of the challenges we have is that we don't have a denominator to be able to determine the flu uptake. Things like the prison population, for example, due to the fluctuation in prison numbers. So that just gives you an idea of some of the challenges that we face in terms of some of the data. So Shauna, if we can just move on. So the eligibility criteria, this table just shows you who's eligible for flu and who's eligible for COVID. And it just breaks down all of that. I won't go into too much detail because what we'll do is we'll make sure that everyone attending the seminar today has a copy of the presentation, and you can then look at the detail on that for yourselves. Just to say that not all NHS staff are eligible for COVID, and that's primarily due to the fact of the Green Book description. So the government describes that as front-facing staff. So for health and social care, so if your day-to-day job involves contact with patients, clients and the public, then you would be entitled to a COVID booster. Shauna, can we move on, please? So I just wanted to touch on the importance of the flu vaccination programme, and our consultant, Dr. Gillian Penrice, is going to talk to us about that.
I'm not sure if anybody's getting any volume through that. Shauna, can you just check the volume, please?
I'll check the volume just a second.
Apologies, everyone. The joys of using Teams, isn't it? When you do the trial run, everything works, and then when you go live, it doesn't work, so please just bear with us.
Apologies, Jane. I've increased the volume on the video, but there doesn't seem to be any other settings. So can you not hear the video at all?
No, there's no volume. Why don't we move on to the next slides? And what we can do is we'll make sure the film clip is posted on the Teams channel. We'll try it.
Just a second. I'll try it. I'll try it with my mute off and see if you can hear it that way. I'll give it one more shot.
Thank you.
No, unfortunately not. I think as long as everybody knows that the video will be in the presentation that we send over, definitely will, you know, putting some time in the diary and watching the video is really good. And obviously Gillian's taken a lot of time to put the video together, so if I can ask it when you get it to make sure you watch the video, please. But I think we'll move on, Shona, if we can. And the joys of modern technology. Eh?
Hey, there's almost one hiccup, if not a few. And just give Shona a wee moment to get back to the presentation. Okay, so just to overview our delivery methods for the programme. So we have a childhood programme. So as part of the vaccination transformation programme, all childhood immunisations were removed from general practice, and we've got separate clinics arranged for preschool children. So that would be those that are 6 months to 2 years at risk, and those 2 to 5 years that are preschool. And then the childhood vaccination teams will go into each of our primary and secondary schools to offer flu vaccination, and the consent packs for those have gone out to parents this last week. In terms of adult flu and all COVID, our community clinics continue to work in partnership with our local authorities and our HSCPs. We've got 16 separate venues, and then that is supplemented in addition to a service operated by the Scottish Ambulance Service from our mobile bus. So those unable to attend a clinic will be seen at home by their local HSCPs, and HSCPs will also deliver vaccination in care homes, secure units and prisons. So what will happen this year is people that are housebound, who were previously registered as housebound, will not receive an invite to attend a vaccination centre, but will automatically get a visit scheduled by the HSCP. And then for anyone who phones to our contact centre to say they are now housebound, we will ensure that that information is passed back to the HSCP to arrange a visit for them. In terms of hospital inpatients and acute and mental health, we'll be offering vaccination in December if they're unable to attend a community appointment. We're also working with community pharmacies, and we've asked them to participate in the programme this year to offer those eligible for flu over the age of 65 and those aged 16 to 64. There's some information about that on our website, and I'll post the website in the chat after today's session for everyone. And we'll put a link into Community Pharmacy Scotland, so you'll be able to view your local community pharmacies that are participating in the scheme. And then in addition to this, we've also got NHS staff that are acting as peer immunisers, many of whom will be on the call today. So thank you for giving your time and your support to this. And we've got 150 people that have registered for that. Thanks, Shona. Next slide. So in terms of training and PDDs, in order to undertake this, you need to have done your immunisation practice, attend mandatory resuscitation and anaphylaxis training, and complete the LEMPRO modules on the cold chain and fridge monitoring, safe sharps, needle stick injuries, and the other issues raised detailed there below. However, I know that many of you, because of your full-time role in terms of your registration, will already have completed all of those modules. When you receive the patient group direction for the flu, you need to read and sign that to say that you're up to date and you understand the content of the PGD. If you are involved in COVID immunisation, you need to complete the Promoting Effective Immunisation practice on Tourist Learn. And as I said already, the permanent staff, you probably already undertake all those annual proficiencies. And just moving on to the next slide. and the cold chain. And I'm just going to hand over at this point to my colleague, Val Riley. Val, are you with us?
So I think this is the video.
Ah, right.
This is
So
the video, yes.
If
So
it doesn't work, Shona, I can try and give it a bash on mine. I did see Val in the room, so I don't know if we can maybe even put her on the spot.
I'm with you, and I can
Oh, you're
talk over
there.
it if you like. I just hope it's working because I had my lippy on that day.
Right, Shona, do you want to end sharing your screen, and I'll try and do it on mine, because I think I've managed.
there you go.
Putting the pressure on myself now, though. Just let me know if you can all see the presentation.
Yes, can see it, Brian.
Yep.
Nothing playing.
I think you've just muted it, have you?
Nope. Here we go.
Oh God.
Hello, my name is Val Riley.
We all here?
I'm a public health protection pharmacist, and I'm going to talk to you about flu vaccine management of the cold chain today. The flu vaccination programme this year is just as important as it has ever been, and early indications from the Southern Hemisphere suggest that we'll see an even earlier onset of infection. I'm going to talk about the flu vaccines we'll use and the management of the cold chain and PGDs. At least to begin with, there is quite a simple range of vaccine with which many of you will be familiar. The first choice for individuals 65 years and over, on or before the 31st of March 2023, is the adjuvanted quadrivalent influenza vaccine, or AQIV. For individuals 18 to 64 years, the choice is Flucelvax, QIVC. And as ever, for 2 to 17-year-olds, live attenuated influenza vaccine, or Fluenz, is the first choice of flu vaccine. Those individuals who can't receive live vaccine or have issues regarding the gelatin content of Fluenz can be offered QIVC. Clinically at-risk children who are 6 months to under 2 years should be offered Sanofi QIVE, and that's the only vaccine that's licensed for them. Health and social care workers will be offered QIVC, regardless of their age group. Now, this approach is supported by Green Book advice. If it is important that they receive an age-appropriate vaccine, they must attend the relevant clinic for them. Now, please be aware that other vaccines may be sourced as the season moves on. Before you take delivery of your new stock, tidy up your fridges, clear out any old expired stock, if appropriate, and check which cohorts you are vaccinating and prepare to order appropriately. Ensure you have the fridge space for a large order. Overcrowding the fridge can lead to loss of vaccine. Check fridge temperature charts to ensure the fridge is functioning correctly. You will be asked to order either from PDC directly or through a member of the Vaccines Programme Management Team, depending on your clinic setting. Please be aware that most of the flu vaccines will come in packs of 10, apart from Sanofi QIVE, which comes in singles. Don't find yourself looking at delivery of 1,000 vaccines when you only wanted 100. Check the pack size you're ordering. Now, basic but vital advice. Ensure that staff know when vaccine is being delivered and there's someone there to receive it. Delivery drivers may not always highlight that it's vaccine they are delivering, so staff must be primed to ask and check. Everyone receiving vaccine must understand that vaccine deliveries should be refrigerated immediately. Relatively unused equipment may be pressed into service for the flu season. Make sure these fridges are monitored, that they are firmly locked closed, and that power points are protected. At the risk of labouring on, we have lost vaccine when it hasn't been returned to the cold chain promptly on receipt. Or a fridge has been unplugged accidentally because cleaning staff were unaware it was currently being used. Or the fridge door has bounced back open when someone has been too enthusiastic slamming it shut behind them. This usually happens at the end of the day, and the fridge door is then left open overnight. Lock the fridge closed or risk losing vaccine. We cannot afford to lose vaccine to cold chain incidents this year. Let's get it into arms, not pharmacy sin bins. Pharmacy Public Health has fridge magnets and temperature charts available to remind people what they should be doing. Contact Pharmacy Public Health for supplies if you need to. Key points to remember are that flu vaccines should be stored between 2 and 8 degrees centigrade. The fridge temperature should be checked at least twice daily, at the beginning and the end of the working day. The maximum, minimum readings should be cleared after each reading, even on days when there is no clinic scheduled. If someone has been working in a fridge, doing a stock check or putting stock away, again, the temperature should be recorded and the maximum minimum cleared. If the temperature has exceeded 8, it's also very important to wait until the fridge temperature has dropped below 8 before clearing the maximum temperature, so that it doesn't appear that a temperature has persisted above that for any length of time. Vaccine may be kept out of the cold chain for a short time before administration, but only remove small quantities of vaccine at a time. Online training is available. The NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde Cold Chain Management module is available on LearnPro for directly managed staff. Contracted staff will be able to access the module by registering on the LearnPro community platform. It's a half-hour module, quickly and easily completed. Patient group directions have been prepared, and if not already circulated, they will be soon. There are 2 PGDs, one for live attenuated influenza vaccine, Fluens, and one for inactivated influenza vaccines. The inactivated influenza vaccines PGD includes all the influenza vaccines which will currently be marketed in the UK in the 2022-23 season. So vaccines are listed whether they are available under national contract or not. As the season develops, we may purchase more vaccine depending on uptake. So this is an attempt to future-proof the PGD. Not all healthcare workers can work under a PGD, but just as last year and with COVID-19 vaccine, protocols will be issued to allow individuals who, while trained to vaccinate, cannot work under PGD to administer vaccine. The usual appendix will accompany the PGD detailing ovalbumin content and exposure risk to other antigens. This information is only correct at time of production. We are still waiting for details of this year's vaccines from some manufacturers. So, if you are unsure about the allergy risk for an individual, please check again. Things might have changed later in the season. It is important, however, to remember allergic reaction to influenza vaccine is extremely rare. If you have any questions, please contact Pharmacy Public Health. Thank you.
Thanks, Val. And I'll just say to anybody, if you've got coaching questions, I'm sure Val will be happy to answer those. And you can see from that slide just the recommended vaccines.
Can I just say at the time of producing that presentation, we had agreed that we'd put on all licensed UK flu vaccines onto the PGD, but somebody at Public Health Scotland hated that idea. So we only have the ones which have been contracted So yeah, the appendix there that we have it lists all the available UK vaccines, but you're just covered for the ones that are licensed. And if something changes, you're just going to have to get a new PGD out and sign it.
Thank you, Val. Moving on, Jen.
Yeah, I'm just waiting on Shona moving on slides. So these are just the pictures of the vaccines that Val's referred to. So the green is for under 65, so you can see the green right there in the box to identify that. And we'll just move on to the next slide. And the blue there for the over 65. So it's quite clear. If you just think of blue and green, you'll hopefully get it in your heads correctly and you'll know which one. But you've got the PGD there to keep you right in terms of the different age ranges. And again, Shona. So just to update everyone, last year people will recall that both flu and COVID were given together as 2 separate vaccinations, and the plan is to do that again this year. So obviously, because of the immense pressure both on NHS staff and wider society, and last year we still had some of our public health measures in place, such as mask use, social distancing. There was a lower level of influenza circulating amongst staff and public. And Val mentioned there that the flu has peaked early in the southern hemisphere, so I suppose we can expect to potentially see increased cases of flu much earlier in the season here in Scotland. And because of the COVID immunity level in individuals, they would benefit from being boosted. So it's really important that we get protection to everyone, both patients and our staff, as soon as possible from both flu and COVID before the winter season takes hold. And that's why we're offering dual vaccinations. You don't have to accept both vaccinations at the same time, but it will delay your protection. And I think it's also worth saying the government has asked us to complete this by early December, so it is quite difficult to therefore fit all those numbers in for both vaccines within the timescale that we've got to do that in. But no one, if you do not want both vaccines together, no one will be forced to have both vaccines together when they attend their appointment. They will have the option to refuse. If they decide they would like the other one on a separate occasion, then they will need to rebook their appointment through the booking portal, and they will need to wait 72 hours from the appointment they've attended to be able to rebook that. So studies have demonstrated there's no safety concerns with giving a COVID-19 vaccine at the same time as flu. Both the vaccines used in adults are inactivated vaccines and so not live. And so the safety is similar to other inactivated vaccines. So for example, there in the childhood programme, we give up to 8 vaccinations at the same time, and this actually improves the body's overall immune response. So as with any vaccine, there's almost side effects which are part of the body's natural response, and for flu these include soreness at the injection site, fatigue, muscle pain and headache. And while we recommend that people have both vaccinations, as I said, you can delay it for a short while and follow up. And if you don't want co-administration, you can get in touch with the National Contact Centre. Next slide. So I'm handing over to my colleague Shona now, who will touch on the vaccine ordering process. Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. So the next few slides, I'm going to take you through the vaccine ordering process for care homes, housebound, prison service, inpatients and peer immunisation. But the first couple of slides, I'll focus on this group here. So for your care homes, housebound, prison service and inpatients, we have a Teams channel that we've had in place for some time. The order forms within the Teams channel are split by HSCP, and we have a separate one that we use for prisons and inpatients. Each HSCP will have a set delivery day from the beginning of September. So Glasgow City HSCP's delivery day will be a Monday, Renfrewshire, East Renfrewshire and Inverclyde will be a Tuesday, Eastern Bartonshire will be a Thursday, and Western Bartonshire will be a Friday. So orders are placed no later than 5 p.m. on a Tuesday for the following week. And I have to ask that all orders that are placed, if we can ensure that all the required fields are completed. Going into the autumn-winter period is extremely busy. So if we can really enforce the importance of submitting the orders on time by the Tuesday at 5 o'clock, going forward, any late orders will not be fulfilled. So if we can ensure that those orders are in on time for Tuesday at 5 o'clock, that would be really, really helpful. Next slide, Brian, please. So the prison service will continue to submit their vaccine orders through the Public Health Protection Unit inbox or through to myself. If any orders are coming in through email, I would ask that you provide the prison service team, destination, vaccine type and quantity, delivery date and contact details, and the vaccines will be delivered to the relevant prison team on that requested delivery date. So delivery and storage, just a couple of things I noted down here. So vaccines should be promptly stored in a fridge after delivery, so maintaining the cold chain at all stages. Any issues identified such as leakages, damage or discrepancies should be reported immediately, and that can come to myself and I will obviously take that forward. Stock should be rotated, shortest expiry date used first. Vaccine stock should be monitored on a weekly basis to ensure minimum wastage. And I suppose this point is really important, particularly for those that are ordering on the Tuesday by 5 o'clock. If we can get into the good practice of checking your fridges on a Friday or a Monday prior to the Tuesday, that way you know whether or not you have enough stock for your clinic the following week or if you need a top-up order. And orders for the flu vaccine should be placed on Tuesday, 30th August for week 5th September. So that applies to your care homes, housebound, prison service and your inpatients. Next slide, please, Brian. So vaccine ordering for peer immunisation. So I have set up a peer immunisation Teams channel, and over the coming weeks, all the peer immunisers that have registered, I will add you to that channel. The QEUH and HSCPs require a 7-day advance notice for vaccine orders. This is to allow pharmacy distribution to make sure that they're prepared with getting the vaccines ready for the bigger sites. And the same applies to peer immunisation with the set days for HSCPs. And it's the same as the care homes. So obviously Monday for Glasgow City, Renfrewshire, East Renfrewshire and Inverclyde on the Tuesday, Eastern Bartonshire the Thursday and Western Bartonshire for the Friday. So with the programme beginning in October, we've decided first orders could be placed from the week of the 19th of September in preparation for early October. So if peer immunisers have an idea of what staff need vaccinated, if we can try and get these orders in mid-September for the start in October, that would be ideal. Next slide, please. So maximum orders of 100 flu vaccine for each peer immuniser for each order. So if we try and not order any more than 100 flu vaccine, obviously check your fridge and just make sure you've got the capacity for the vaccine as well. On the order forms within the peer immunisation channel, it will be similar to what we do on a weekly basis. So within your peers channel, there will be order forms split for HSCPs and you'll have one specifically for acute sites as well. And on that order form, similar to what we do, it'll ask for your destination, ward, what vaccine you require, the name of the person that's ordered, but there'll also be a dispatch date. And on that dispatch date, when you've placed your order, pharmacy will then go in and enter a dispatch date. So for example, if you've placed an order for the 7th of October, you can go in on that day to check whether your vaccine has been dispatched, and then that will obviously make you aware that there's an expectation that your delivery will be that day. So we want to avoid contacting pharmacy distribution at all. So if any questions, the peer immunisation channel can be used for queries to do with vaccine orders, anything you're not sure of, any guidance or information. If all the questions can be filtered through that channel, we can keep it fairly tight, and I can obviously help in any way I can and respond as quick as I can to you as well. In terms of delivery, of the vaccine to the sites, the Royal Alexander and Inverclyde. The orders will go to pharmacy, so peer immunisers can pick up the vaccine from pharmacy once delivered. We're still in talks with the Queen Elizabeth, Glasgow Royal Infirmary, Gartnavel, Stobhill and the New Vic to have the vaccine delivered to wards. So as soon as we get agreement from all the sites, I'll share that in the Teams channel so you're all aware about the process for that as well. Next slide. So before I hand over to Kirsty, the vaccine recording element of it will be the vaccination management tool. And I suppose you'll all be pretty familiar with the tool already. It's a brilliant tool. All the information is put in real time and available in real time, but I'll hand over to Kirsty, who is a guru with VMT, so thank you.
I think you're on mute, Kirsty.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, I'm Kirsty Howie, and I just want to give a brief overview about Vaccination Management Tool, or VMT. As Shona said, it is a phenomenal tool which was built at the beginning of a pandemic, and it has just increased to meet our needs again and again and again. I'm sure a lot of you are used to using the tool, so I just want to touch on the importance and just recent changes and how we can use the tool to its maximum just to make patient journey better. Okay, next slide, please, Brian. I just want to stress the importance of VMT, please. Accurate records keeping in connection with the code is extremely important, but also the importance on the citizen's journey, just how important it is, and it can be seen in CDS, so everybody can see, just for safe practice, so that people aren't revaccinated, that they can travel, you know. So we've had a lot of really, I mean, it's so important. I can't stress the importance of that. Next slide, please, Brian. I know this is a flu webinar, but I just wanted to touch on how VMT has grown and just the importance to select flu when you're using VMT for flu, because there's a lot of other buttons that you can use during that time now. So we've got a lot of ad hoc as well as lots of COVID vaccinations. So just please, everybody that's using it, just make sure that the correct button is used for the correct thing. It's going to grow further, and there'll be even more vaccines as it continues to grow. Fantastic. Next slide, please. Thank you, Brian. So you can see all the different types of flu. This is the first year that the Pre-5 team and the school team have used it for flu. So there's even more than we had last year. We only had 2 last year. We had the under 65s and the over 65s, but you can see just the importance. So just what we've learned is the importance of taking the time to just to click the right button for people, just for accurate recording again. The way that it's been delivered is that this year we're just going to press the booster button again. So I have received a lot of questions regarding that. So it's very simple. So we don't have to put 3rd dose or 4th dose or anything. Just please press the booster button again. Fantastic. Thank you again, Brian. This is, so there's lots of learning resources on TURAS, which I really encourage everybody. A lot of people came to our aids when COVID started and were kind of taken along with us with flu last year. If they could please revisit the vaccination training on LearnPro and look on TURAS as well, just to get used to it and just the changes. There have been quite a few changes. There are pregnancy buttons gone, the eligibility buttons gone, so there's quite a change from people. The people are returning to support us again. So if you could please just ask them to have a look at it. Now this is a safe environment, which, so instead of what we found last year was people would like try and put themselves on for a vaccine and then not know how to take it off to have a practice. So this is a safe learning environment. So you can actually click on the web link and then use Vicky the Vaccinator so that they can actually trial it in a safe area instead of vaccinating their own relatives or people they know the date of birth of. So if I can encourage you, because again, that really did interfere with the data for us as well. People were vaccinated lots of different times in different places, or they vaccinated themselves. So that's just a really useful thing that maybe not all of you are aware of. Next slide, please, Brian. And just finally, things that people can do to help. So I know not all of you use appointments. I know some of you in HSCP land use clinic lists, which we've talked about populating it. We use appointments in the mass vaccination clinics. So I'm just going to go over just briefly things that will really help, again, for patient's journey and for record keeping accuracy. So if you are using an appointment system, can you please make sure that the person is actually there for that appointment? So we have had people vaccinated in the future and in the past, which is really difficult as well. So if there's any anomaly with the record, it's really hard to track it down, and it also affects the scheduling. So if you use a appointment in the past, they might not be at 12 weeks and might not even be eligible for their booster. So if you could please, it's really, really important for the whole scheduling and the patient journey. If through wherever you're vaccinating, whether it be in someone's home and at the mosque or in a care home, can incompletes please be checked throughout the day, because it just makes it much better, because you're much more likely to remember if you've vaccinated somebody or somebody's refused it. So what happens is sometimes they'll register somebody, check it all, and then the person will say, no, I don't want that today, I only want one vaccine, and then it sits there and we're not sure whether it's happened or not. So if you could please check incompletes and remove them. Use the CAI wherever possible, and if there's not a CAI, just ask for help. Correct spelling. Also, if you're not using a CAI, can the whole name be put in, please? We've had like FI for Fiona and LE for Leach, so it's FILE. So when you go to search the person, it's really hard to find them. So if you could please put as much detail as you can. So take time to register the correct vaccination, as I've just spoken about. Please make sure if you're giving flu that day that you've clicked flu. If the person in front of you has said what you have is a lot of nonsense, that is not my record, that's not correct, please collate as much information as you can from that person, and then again seek help, and we'll correct it for you. But it's much easier for us if you can collect as much information as you can from the person. And again, we're here to support you, so if you have any difficulties, please just ask for help. Okay, thank you so much for listening.
Thank you, Kirsty. And so to me now. So obviously Jane has touched on it. It's not just a flu webinar, it's obviously COVID as well. So over the last 2 years, through a combination of vaccine-induced immunity and immunity generated following natural infection, natural immunity, large proportions of the population have developed at least partial immunity against COVID-19. So for the 2022 autumn booster programme, the primary objective is to augment immunity in those at a higher risk from COVID-19 and thereby optimise protection against severe COVID-19, specifically hospitalisation and death over winter 2022 to 2023. So by the 26th of July, over 2.7 million doses of COVID vaccine had been given to GGC residents, with 91% of those over 75 and eligible for a second booster having received it. That's just short of 1 million individuals have received at least one dose of vaccine, and nearly 750,000 are fully vaccinated. So in this year's programme, we're going to have 16 clinics across 6 local authorities, various opening times across 7 days of the week, ranging from 8 till 8, but majority of the clinics, our staff will be on site from 8 in the morning to in the evening. Last year, when I joined the programme, I think it was only myself, Kirsty, Jane, Shona and Emma that were the permanent staff, and the rest were all bank staff. So anybody that supported or is on the bank, you'll realise what pressure we were under last year. But now, great, we now have 18 permanent clinical leads. Once we finish our recruitment, we're going to have 29 Band 5 permanent co-vaccinators, 30 Band 3 healthcare support worker vaccinators. The team are working their way through some interviews at the moment, and we will have, so these will be new, the first time we've actually had healthcare support workers within the programme as well. We also have permanent admin staff at every clinic, so you'll probably find that when you turn up to a clinic this year, it'll look a little bit more futuristic in the fact that they've all got laptops and not pens and paper. So that'll be a lot better, especially because we'll be able to tick off who's been coming and be able to report a bit more live in the day in terms of DNA rates, etc. And obviously additional bank shifts will supplement all the roles above. You know, I'm not going to lie and say that, you know, because we've got all these permanent staff that, you know, it's going to run nice and smoothly. You know, there is a huge reliance on bank staff. So if any of you are on the bank as vaccinators, you know, we really appreciate every shift that you can do. If you haven't done a shift in 6 months and you would love to do it, then, you know, log back into VMT, make sure it's working. I'm going to send out a programme update out today that will go out to all our bank staff, just really encouraging them and a real sort of call to arms. But as I said, if anybody has been doing any bank shifts that are on this call, a real big thank you, and I sort of plead to come over. You know, I might, even if I'm in the clinics, do my usual and drop off cakes and donuts as a thank you. And I think that is us at the end of the webinar. So hopefully we've been able to maybe answer a lot of the questions that you do have. I can see there's some questions in the actual chat, but if anybody does have any questions, if you want to pop your hand up and I'll certainly go down. If we don't have the answers, we'll certainly take them away and we'll come back to you with an answer. And obviously, you know, any question isn't a silly question. And it would be perfect because we have another webinar next week and we may be able to put some of the answers into maybe extend the webinar through some of the questions. So I think Annie here, you're the first hand up.
All right, thanks very much. And it was just really at the last, that was really good and informative, and being part of the partnership on this. But also I am on the bank, but I haven't done any shifts since immunisations last year. I did say I would be willing to do some again. Are they going to be just put up in the same way as last year for booking them? Because it became a bit of a trawl to find shifts. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it would be good to hear.
Yeah, so obviously we have actually put shifts up already for week commencing the 5th and week commencing the 12th. Obviously last year the shifts did tend to go very quickly, as we know we had the independent contractors supporting us as well. There will be plenty of shifts going about for anybody that would like a shift this year. For someone like yourself who's maybe not logged into VMT for a long while, I would certainly say log in. If you don't receive my email from the staff bank today, contact the staff bank and they will give you a copy of that email, and they will also give you some instructions on what to do in terms of your VMT access. And then we'll pick it up between myself and Kirsty. We'll get you back on. But thank you, and look forward to maybe seeing you in one of the clinics. It was the Lura cakes and donuts. I think maybe that's what it got you.
I dropped in chocolates as well when I went for my immunisation myself.
Thank you. Okay, Amanda Miller.
Hi, I'm Amanda Miller. I'm the team lead for the Greater Glasgow and Clyde school programme, and I was just wondering, with the over 16s that are getting done at a pharmacist, what criteria do they have? Is it vulnerable 16-year-olds, or can they pay for it, or?
It's only those that have underlying conditions, Mandy,
right.
and the way they were before. So 16 to 64-year-olds with underlying conditions.
Okay.
Obviously, some 16-year-olds will have left school, so we need to pick up that group as well. So does that answer your question?
Well, I thought the thing is as well, what if they're at school and they go early? How are we getting notified?
They'll be recorded on the VMT, Mandy.
We're not using VMT for high schools. We're only using it for primary schools.
Okay, let's take that offline and we'll have a think about that and come back to you in terms of a response for that, because that's what's really useful for the webinar, because there's lots of little bits and pieces that we wouldn't have thought about. So we'll take a look at that after today's webinar and I'll come back to you on it.
The other thing, thanks Jane, is that if the child goes for if it's a vulnerable child going for their COVID vaccination, will they be offered their flu, because that could cause all sorts of trouble too, or will they rely on them getting flu at school? I think we need something there as well.
No, we addressed this because this happened last year, Amanda, in one case. So communication has gone out with all of our team that we are not vaccinating somebody who attends school. They'll get COVID only and then they'll get flu with you. So there's no duplication on it. So yeah, that's already been addressed. So
That's fantastic. Thanks so much. Thank you.
Okay, not at all.
Thank you. And thanks, Jane. If we can take that one away and get an answer on that, would be great. Is that you fine, Amanda? Is it hand still up? Nope, thank you. Is it Katie or Katie White? Sorry, apologies if I pronounce your name wrong there.
Yeah, it's Katie White, yeah. I'm a staff person ward 20 at the RH, and I know a couple of years ago we were allowed to give the flu vaccines in the ward to the staff. I don't know if that's still the case, or do they have to attend, like obviously the COVID vaccines like last year?
So do you want me to answer this one, Brian? So basically,
if you can,
if Katie, if there's a peer immuniser within your locality and they can get it through the peer immuniser, then I think that's absolutely fine. And because the peer immunisers are recording it on the vaccine management tool, then that detail would be there on the tool when somebody attends for their COVID booster. So it's optional, basically. Either you can book on the portal and go for both at the centre, or you can have your flu as with a peer immuniser on the ward, yeah?
Perfect, because me and my colleague Margaret did it a couple of years ago, and I know the two of us went through some of the consultants and everything and all the registrars as well. We managed to flu everybody.
That would be fantastic. Just you vaccinate as many people as you possibly can. Thanks.
Magic. That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. Thanks, Jane. Kay Morrill.
Hi, thanks very much. My name's Kay. I'm the practice educator for Accord Hospice in Renfrew. So I'm on this so that we can vaccinate the staff. So it's just a couple of questions. I don't have access to VMT, so am I just to keep a paper record and then email it in afterwards, or do you want me to? Can I do it through TURAS? Because I do have access to TURAS. And the other thing was, I'm more than happy to do the staff, but is there scope for me to do people within the community if they come up to the hospice? And if so, how do I record that? Because I'm aware people might not be able to always get an appointment at GP, so I wasn't sure if I could help out in that respect, or if I just need to stick within my staff group.
Kirsty, do you want to take this? Oh, sorry, Jane.
Sorry, Kirsty, you go.
I'll take half of it and you can take half of it, Jim. I'll take you can take the other bit. So I'll put my email in the chat, and if you email me, and we can grant you access, and I'll send you the Learn Pro modules and everything for VMT, so that you can do that, and then we'll give you access, because that would be much better than using bits of paper that get lost everywhere. So yeah, we'll support you. So I'll email you after this. Jane, I'll hand it over to you now. Thank you.
So, Kay, if you're vaccinating staff, then that's absolutely fine, and you can get, as long as you record that in the VMT once you have access and looked at the training film clip that Kirsty sends you. In terms of the community, please don't vaccinate, because GPs are no longer doing any vaccinations. That's part of the vaccine transformation programme. It's now the responsibility of the health board, and people will get a letter or invited to book an appointment on the booking portal in order to get the flu, so and their COVID. So please don't vaccinate the community. Thank you.
Just wanted to double check. Thank you. I'm not on the staff bank, but I will be happy to come and help with shifts if you do get desperate. Feel free to email me. Thanks.
Thank you.
Got your name down. And I know the next one. So hi, Irene.
Hi there. So I'm Irene Carswell, immunisation team lead at Renfrewshire. It was just to ask, we support Ukrainian refugees in Renfrewshire who are staying at the airport hotel. So this is where they come initially. So at that point, they don't have a CAI, they're not registered with GP. If they're eligible for flu or COVID, can they come along to a clinic?
This has been a bit of a challenge for us, Irene, because obviously once people are registered with a GP and have a CAI, they would be called for their appointment if they were eligible. But because they're not all registered yet, and because they're being sent to different hosts, once they're with the host, they'll be able to register for the GP. So that's a bit difficult at the moment. So I would say that Brian and myself and Kirsty and Shona, we're looking at all of that and how we best manage that going forward. because there's a number of hotels that some of our Ukrainian community are spread across, not just in Renfrewshire, but I think there's another 10 hotels in Glasgow at the moment. So I think we still need to sit down and work out a full plan around that, and we can come back and share that with you once we have that.
I think the challenge is, unfortunately, they're having to stay there longer than we first hoped. So
yeah,
that's making it an issue.
But it's on our radar, and we are making plans. Okay.
Lovely, thank you.
Thanks both. Annie here.
It was actually just in response to that, because I had a presentation yesterday from Suzanne Miller in Glasgow City, because they have the 3 Millennium hotels in the city centre, and there's going to be a cruise ship docked at King George IV dock. Irene, you'll be pleased to know it's in Glasgow postcode, not Renfrew. But Glasgow are using the asylum and team, and they've expanded that to support the refugees. So I would suggest there's a discussion with Kirsty and Brian with Suzanne Miller in Glasgow, and then linking in with what's happening in Renfrew, because they've been doing some visits to Edinburgh and the ship there, and basically they're normative. The treatment of these refugees is normative, as normalised as possible, because that is resilience building. So we don't want to treat as special cases. But what she did share was, education-wise, many of the children are coming out into primary schools, but a lot of the older children are doing homeschooling, and Ukraine has set up online schooling. So there will be a whole caption and perhaps a strategy of being able to normalise how they are immunised. But I would urge you to speak to Suzanne, because we got a very helpful presentation yesterday.
Oh,
Thank you.
That's
Thank you.
great.
Maybe
Thanks
I'll
for
do.
sharing that.
Linda Peaty.
Actually, it was just a wee note for Irene. Irene, I'm the senior nurse for down in Inverclyde. So if you want to just take a wee note of me, because we've also got refugees as well as the Ukrainians. So we've got lots going on down there too. Yeah. So it might be helpful for you, Irene, to tie in with me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Linda. So I don't see any more hands up, but I did see a couple of questions coming out of the chat, so we'll certainly try and answer them, and if we can't. So I think the first one was from Anne Mitchell. Has there been any anxiety in our group in Glasgow about leaving the inpatients in our OPMH wards until December? Is there generally elderly and frail? Is there any way they can be prioritised like the care home population? Jane, any idea on that one, or is it one we're going to need to take away?
I think it's something we need to take away, and I know we touched on this at the adult vaccination group, actually, in terms of whether the dates for that could be brought forward or not, but I'll certainly take it away from today, and I'll come back, because I am aware of the anxiety around that. I know that doesn't fully answer your question at this point in time.
I mean, we've got people who are willing to go in quickly and do it, so we're not, it's not going to be a big resource drain. It's just that because they're so elderly and because they're frail, they sort of really fall into the same pool, I would say, as those who are in care homes, particularly the ones who are in the long stay wards. So that would be great. Thanks, Jane.
Okay, thanks, Anne.
Okay, thank you both. Fiona Conway's asked us, we've had issues trying to get staff on our annual update training for BLS and anaphylaxis. Is there any help for this? Kirsty, you're nodding your head, so I don't know, is that an answer? Do you have any guidance?
Yeah, there is. There's a really good link, Claire, who I'll put her email in. She has lots of BLS training, and we've got a good connection here, so I'll put her email, but it's on StaffNet as well, the training. We've actually decided to do it in-house because it is an issue. It is to get people timely trained within programmes at the moment, but I'll certainly put her email on the chat as well, but it is online, what sessions are available across GGC.
Can I also just add, there's a really good app that you can download on your phone called iResus, which is from the British Resuscitation Council, which people might also find useful. I know it's not the same as doing the course because you're required to do that, but it might be helpful to have a look through that as well.
Okay, thank you, Jane. I can see a couple of questions, both saying, are the peer vaccinators only delivering flu?
Yes.
That is correct. And one from Julie saying, we have vulnerable learning disability adults within inpatient services. Can we vaccinate sooner than December?
Thanks. I think that relates to the question that Anne
Yeah.
has asked. So I'll go away and I'll come back to this with the answer.
Okay, and then there's one from Julie. Can someone remind me how to access bank for booking shifts? So I believe, obviously never having worked on the bank myself, but I believe it's just the online portal. If you do have any issues with getting logged on, I'll pop the bank email address and just go through that way into this chat as well. That's what I've been advising people before. And then the last one I think is from Suzanne. It says, I'm a peer vaccinator in an acute area, just trying to gauge what we think the interest in flu-only vaccination will be. Can staff book for flu in the community, or is it COVID and flu?
It's COVID and flu for your appointment, but when you go to that appointment, you can choose just to have one or the other or both. Does that answer the question for you, Suzanne?
Yep, she's replied by yes, thank you. And
Sorry,
I
yeah,
think,
yeah, it does.
no problems. And I think we've got, that was the last of the questions, but Amanda's got her hand back up. So, Amanda.
Sorry, trouble again.
No, you're all right.
Jane, and that's another thing possibly associated to the last, the one that you're taking away. We've always had parents on regarding getting the extremely vulnerable children done early. Now, the rule, the way we were told last year was no, they wait for their school. But my concerns are obviously if the flu is going to hit earlier, should we be making allowances and doing these children early, or should we still stand by? No, they'll get done with their school. Bearing in mind, some schools won't be done to the 3rd week in December.
Okay, I think Mandy, that's a decision we take offline today, and I think
no,
we
but
have the childhood immunisations group tomorrow. So maybe
I'll
that's
get Janet to raise that. It's not tomorrow, it's Thursday.
Thursday, sorry, and I think we
I'll get
that
Janet to raise that then.
At that meeting, thanks.
Yes. Okay, thanks, Jane.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jane. Thanks, Maddie. And then one from Alan. Oh, a couple more coming in thick and fast. So Alan said, so I'm confused. Are staff in hospital being offered COVID and flu from peer immunisers or just flu, and they make an outside appointment for COVID?
Just flu for staff in the hospitals. You have to make an outside appointment for COVID.
Yep. Okay. And then Lindsay Smith says contacted staff bank last week to be able to see flu and COVID clinics on the bank system, but we're told that they weren't taking any more people on the bank for bank vaccinators. I previously worked flu clinics out in my work area and would be keen to be able to do bank shifts for flu and COVID clinics. Let me take that one away. I'll link in with the bank. I would, if the fact that I suppose it's difficult in the fact that once people start applying, it's having the people there to process all through, because I know last year when we came out and asked Call to Arms, my inbox had maybe about 1,000 replies within a day and a half, and it's trying to. So I'll link into the bank, and Lindsay, I'll take your details as well, so I can come back to you. If anybody else is in the same boat, just email me, and I'll certainly pick that up. But yeah, I'm not going to complain about anybody wanting to join the programme. Vaccinate a grand.
And in school health, we'll take any overflow that they don't want.
Oh dear.
Okay, folks, that is no more questions. I think hopefully between myself, Jane, Kirsty and Shona, we'll be able to get some answers on the ones that we weren't able to answer today. I apologise for some of the technical issues we had at the start, but if you can really go in, take time, less than 10 minutes. If you get some time to go in and watch Gillian's video, it's really worthwhile. And just a thank you for joining today. If you want to come, we're back on. We're back on the TV next Monday, I believe, run about the same time. So if anybody else wants to come back, if there's anything that suddenly you have a question appears next week and you want to ask, by all means, join again. If you want to listen to me rabbit on again, though. Okay, folks. Right, thank you very much for your time and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
bye.
Everyone. Kirsty, Brian, will we just have a wee debrief?
Yeah, I think we may as well stay on. We'll just stay on this one. I think everybody's starting to dive off.
Just wait till folk have left.
All right, so we'll dive into another one because this will be recorded. So we'll dive into another meeting. I'll call you in. Bye.